So, final part of the UVs, and the last thing that we've forgotten, apart from the tracks, which are a special case, is the 50 cal that we have up top here. Now, this is a fairly complex mesh, even though it's quite small, so we're going to have to spend a bit of time getting the UVs to look right. We can, however, try and share quite a bit. The only real problem we have is that the left and the right side of this thing, we could try and share them, but unfortunately the high poly model not is not the same, is not symmetrical. So first I'm going to unwrap the symmetrical because the low poly mesh is, and after that, like I've done with a few symmetrical parts before, we're just going to collapse the symmetry down and adjust the unwrap after that. So starting out with the main big shapes first, since those are always the easiest and most pleasant ones to work on. Try and move that a little bit closer. Just starting out with the big shapes. I'm just checking if I've got the correct edges aligned there. Then we have these parts at the back. I'm just going to stack those on top. Just do quick planers like that. We can work with those. There we go. And then for these handles, I'm just going to do a quick planar projection so that they share the same UV space as well. And then we're about to select these things and just do a cylindrical unwrap on them. Quite simple. So that part looks good to go as well. And then we have these edges that sit all around. Just, let's see. It's done this sort of annoying stacking them on top of each other because obviously unfold doesn't really do what we want most of the time. I'm going to go for this single strip. And that one looks to be unwrapped okay. Same with this one, so we're going to stack those on top of each other. Like that. After welding the vertices, of course, which you always have to do after these unfolds. And then do another one, and once we've stacked those the same way, we can just continue with the next parts. These are all relatively simple. Again, I'm going to do a few planers here. I can't share the UV space with the left and right parts of these iron sides because the inside's going to have some ambient occlusion baked into it for that little cylindrical part. Then the front iron sides, bit of an annoying shape. The unfold's not coming up with much usable parts. So let's see, weld those, use text tool to align, and move them out. Just grab that, and there we go, that part should be done as well. There's a whole bunch of small parts attached to this which are going to fill up a little bit of space aside the main body. So trying to detach the important parts, and obviously welding the verts that are split. I'm just trying to select the correct parts, so yeah, reselecting those, weld them, then grab these. I think we can work with that. And then this little part, do an unfold, weld them. I take this final thing, move it over. There we are. Okay, so collapsing that, and then adding another symmetry on top of the UVs, another UV on top of the symmetry. And I'm not going to collapse the symmetry just yet. I mean, it's always safer to keep it. Then just grabbing that one side, moving it over. And this top one, I'm going to do another planar projection just to make sure that we don't get any obvious mirroring in the center there. I think the rest of these parts, or I could do the same thing with that one. And the front as well. I mean, it doesn't take that much UV space. Right, so next step is the barrel. Skipped ahead a little bit here, and most of the other parts are relatively simple. It's the same thing. Don't want to show you too much of a repetitive thing. Just show you a little bit of the barrel because it's the last main part. The hatch and the other attachments should be able to figure out. So rotating the seam to sit at the bottom. Very important for a part like this. And I'm thinking now, this part here, we're going to do a separate cylindrical on it. That should be good to go with that. And these parts, since I'm splitting them up in the UVs because I feel like the smoothing groups are going to have to be split as well, I'm selecting them separately and then doing a quick planar projection because I could work with that. And then just taking the front part and placing it next to it. So there we go. That's the barrel that we can work with. Collapse it, change the color. Okay, so we've got all these separate parts here now that I've all done separately. We still have to fit them in with the rest. Now, since they're the last ones, it's a bit annoying because we really have to figure out a decent spot to put them. First off, I'm going to try and fill some holes here to make sure that I'm at least packing these in an efficient way. And let's see what I can do with this. That one over there. And perhaps move those. Yeah, that looks like it fits a little bit better. We can fit this one here. Don't be afraid to change the existing packing or layout that you've done. I mean, nothing's stopping you from changing that around to create something slightly more efficient. Move that one out and try and get this big one in here. And just taking a few of these parts. And then we can move that one over there. Like that. And that one seems to, yeah, that seems like it should fit. Okay, so we have a few smaller parts left. First I'll do the really small ones. These really don't matter that much where you place them. Alright, so once that's all puzzled, we've tried to make a square. And I'm just going to double check. And these splines have not been unwrapped yet. I have made sure to turn on all the generate UV mapping for them. So for the ones that I forgot, I'm just going to go back, turn it on. Super important that you keep them as splines. I mean, if you have splines that you don't need to edit, try and keep them as, don't collapse them into editable polys for as long as possible. Because it's always possible that you forget about the UVs. So there we go. We have a bunch of UVs here for these splines. It's actually, the UVs for these are not that important. They're just rubber hoses. You can actually get away with a solid color for these. I'm probably not going to do that, but I'm not going to spend too much time unwrapping them. You could also get away with just stacking all of them on top of each other. But the reason that I'm unwrapping them, because I keep mentioning they're not important, is because you might not know this, but if you want to put this in certain engines, like the Unreal Engine, for example, you need to have unwrapping for all parts or your specular is going to be messed up on them. So it doesn't hurt to just unwrap these. So that's all my separate parts here. I'm probably going to stack them a bit. And with that done, I'm going to try and see if we can pack this into one big main thing. Now, first I had in mind that we're going to have two separate sheets. The orange one I thought was going to be a 2K. So just drawing out a sheet here that's 200 by 200. And I'm just picking 200 because I think that should be about the average surface size of these things. And the other one is going to be 100 by 100. Why? Because I thought I'm thinking that the blue stuff might fit on a 1024. So I'm just going to select the unique stuff from the body, only the unique stuff because the rest is irrelevant for the mapping. And then I'm going to create a unique sheet 1 stuff. And then there we go. That's my unique sheet 1 stuff. Create a new set. All the unique parts. And just name that in caps so we can find it easily. Then select these second ones, and that way we can just add all the unique parts onto a single selection set, because I mean, you can work with layers, you can work with selection sets, it's all the same. So do UV together for these things, and zoom out. Now we've got these sheets here, they've got some funky unwrapping, which you can't really work with straight away. So I'm just going to select these elements, and that's what the unwrapping looks like. And it looks like these two sheets, which I thought the blue one was going to be half the size, is actually the same size as the orange one. So I'm going to have to unwrap them to probably, I'll go for a 2x1 layout. So that's going to be 2K high and 4K wide, which is a pretty huge texture, but we are saving a draw call because we're only using one texture. Draw call is when your graphics card has to draw an object in 2 passes because it uses two texture sets and thus 2 shaders. So it looks like this is actually matching up pretty nice. Even my estimate of 200 or 400 units looks to be absolutely perfect. So with that done, we're going to have to do a little bit more packing and puzzling to fit these things together that closely. Looks like this piece is sticking out in a bit of an annoying way. Try and move that down there. And see, with some shoving, should be able to fit everything in there. These parts, probably move them up a bit higher. There we are. And this thing in the middle, obviously it's a bit annoying because it prevents us from packing these things a bit tighter. So once we've done that, we can move these a whole lot closer and get as close as we can. And actually, it seems to already fit quite nicely. We can go closer, say for this piece here, but whatever, we can just move that. Then grab these pieces. Make sure not to select the wrong ones. Move them out a little bit more. Grab these also and move them out. Most of it seems to fit. There's just one overlapping part over there. Put that piece in there. And just move these around a little bit so we get slightly more space around that area. Okay, then we still have this piece of the huge sprocket. I think we can fit that up there. Should be good. Just rotate this one to save some space. Alright, so we've got all of our stuff here, and this is as good as we can pack it. It's a really good packing. All seems to fit. So for the 2-in-1 layout, I actually changed the proportions, and then it gets twice as wide. So I have to scale it back down to 50% of its original width. Now, there is not real UV type in, but you can use percentage snap and then use the scale tool to just scale it down to what looks like 25%. Because it snaps in, I think it's like 5% increases, it's kind of hard to miss the exact percentage. You can just judge by the circles also. If the circles don't look round, well, you need to either make it wider or make it less wide. So move some more of these things around. I've scaled this down to fit into the 0 to 1 space, and some small parts are sticking out, but that's not really a problem because I can just move these things around so that it does fit in there. And I'm trying to get this in as tightly as possible. So I've scaled this up a few times. I'm not always showing that. It's a bit fiddly, but just make sure that you fit it in there as tightly as possible. So again, the complete scaling of your UVs to fit in the 0 to 1 space only happens at the very, very end. As you can see, because I decided to change the proportions, it was actually a good thing that I didn't do this in advance, or we'd have a lot of mess with the 2 to 1 proportions. I'm just going to unhide everything here, change the color to a single one, then we should be good to go to get baking. Yeah, the colors represent the uniqueness now. So that's it.